it doesn't get too heavy in that relationship stuff that like Awakening and Fates introduced to the series.
Yep.
There is like there's romance aspects, but they're not nearly as upfront. It's more about the story. Plus, it has so many different roots, different characters. A lot of like Persona-ish elements too,
okay.
like the whole like walking around the school and interacting with people. The music's amazing. The gameplay's phenomenal.
Yep.
I love the main character, Byleth. Like, everything about this game is like perfect. It's a great tactical RPG. Honestly, it's by far my favorite Fire Emblem of all time. And that might be a controversial take.
Yeah, but it's your take.
So this one would definitely be higher. I want to wait till we get to a later entry on this series because I think I'd swap them around.
Oh, okay.
On this list. But Three Houses was definitely one of my favorites, and I'd still keep it in this list. And moving on. Okay, this one's probably a bit of a controversial. Hey guys, I'm Bill, also known as the Barbecue Games on Instagram.
And I'm Alex, his sister, who brings only chaos.
And together we are the Gaming and Collecting Podcast, a mostly video game centered podcast.
But half the time, we just talk about anime.
And that collecting thing, well, that's mostly just an implication at best.
So come along and enjoy us on this adventure
As we discuss the games that shaped us. So, how you been?
I just thought I'd do an awkward silence to see your reaction.
Okay. So, it's been a day since we last recorded
Yep.
in our little recording rendezvous where we're hanging out.
Yeah.
So yeah, not much happened in between other than Alex has severe road rage.
No, it's not road rage. So yesterday, like, I just felt like shit all yesterday. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I just, like, my stomach was just upset all day. So I just wasn't, so everything was just making me angry. So we were trying to go, so for dinner, we literally tried to go to 3 different places and we gave up and just went to Red Robin.
Yeah.
But first we tried to go to this place that's down the street from my apartment, and it just has the worst parking lot that's ever been designed. So we tried to park into a spot, and I was literally like, I can't do this. I'm stuck. Like,
Yeah, it's so tightly cramped that it's like you have to be like a master. Like the only spots that were left were like the ones that were such a pain in the ass to get into that like nobody wanted them.
Yeah. So we went that, and then I was like road raging. I was like, fuck it, I hate this place. This place sucks. Blah, blah, blah. So I was getting all angry, and I drove over a curb because I didn't even realize that it was like 2 separate places, but whoops. So then we leave, and then we go, and I'm like, oh, you want to go to the 99? But I was like, oh, what's the 99? So I was like, oh, okay. So then we tried going to this other place that we go to a bunch, and we get there, and it's like crowded.
Oh, it was like it was beyond crowded. Like
Well,
it
the
was.
parking lot was crowded, but there were spots left, and we were like, all right, maybe it's not that bad.
And then
We
you
go
get inside, and it's freaking packed to the
it's
door.
packed. So we tried to sit at the bar, no place to sit at the bar. So we were like, fuck it, let's go somewhere else. So we go out to the car, and we just start searching, and we're like, all right, let's drive over here. So we drive, and we're going. You're like, oh, there's a TGI Fridays. I was like, okay, we'll go there. So we try to go there, and we're like, oh, there's a Red Robin.
No, the TGI was like across the street and it would have been more work to go to. And then I looked over and saw there was a Red Robin just chilling. I'm like, fuck it, just there.
Red Robin. So then we go to Red Robin, and at this point, I'm just so frustrated. I'm like, give me a drink.
Oh, yeah.
Give me the strongest drink you have.
Yeah, and you got this like rum thing, and you were like, this is too much rum.
Well, no, it's not that they're like too much. I mean, it was a balanced drink. It was pretty good. But it was just like, I was just feeling it. I haven't had rum in a while. I think the last time I had rum was like college. To be honest, I mostly drink vodka or gin now. So I haven't had rum in so long. And yeah, I was feeling it yesterday. I was like, oh my god.
And then our waitress was very happy.
Yeah, our waitress was so happy to the point of like.
It was kind of scary.
Yeah, it was like she had a gun against her head. Like if she was not chipper enough, like they could like be like, "You're fired, get out." So
Yeah.
it was slightly scary. I mean, she was nice, but like
We gave her a decent tip, but it was
it
still
was
like
very like the like robot like kindness. Like I was waiting for her head to go like,
just
start
like
twitching.
Terminator all of a sudden. Like, is
Like-
your order good enough?
Like you know, like when Monica starts glitching out. In,
Oh, in a Doki Doki,
in Doki
yeah.
Doki, I was waiting for that to start happening. I was waiting for it to start glitching. So that was funny.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was our after
Oh, and they
podcast.
didn't have onion rings.
Okay, and then it kept,
Which is like the staple of Red Robin. You go there and
Alex
you always
wanted
get a
our
tower.
tower of onion rings, and they were like, "We're sorry, we're out." But then we got the fried pick.
I'm choking.
Then we got the fried pick.
I'm sorry.
Are you good?
Yeah, I was like, I drank some of my coffee and then I went, ugh, and then I started choking.
Yeah. Well, and then we got the fried pickles though, and those were
I'm so sorry. I'm good. I'm good now.
great.
Yeah, the fried pickles were actually pretty good. The whatever batter they used was like nicely seasoned. So they were pretty good. I'd recommend.
Yeah.
But Red Robin was good. Oh, and we ate fudge.
Yeah, the fudge Alex bought it. Big Y.
It just looked so good. You know, like when you buy things and you're just like, oh, I don't need this, but I really want it. So we got it.
You picked it up and put it down like 4 times. You're like, I want the fudge. No. I'm like, just buy the freaking fudge. You clearly want
It
it.
was really good. Well, it was funny. I was telling Bill about how, like, the last time I had fudge, it was from Stu Leonard's. And Stu Leonard's is amazing, but their fudge is, like, garbage. They have garbage fudge. Like, you know, fudge is supposed to, like, it's supposed to, like, melt in your mouth. And it's, like, supposed to be delicious. And their fudge at Stu Leonard's is, like, taffy. It is bad
Alex
fudge.
gets very particular about her fudge.
Well, if you're gonna get fudge, you want it to be delicious, and that wasn't delicious. But the one at Big Y was delicious, really good, especially the peanut butter one. But anyways, that was my rant.
Yep.
I was super angry yesterday. I was full of rage, but now I am calm. We had nice morning so far.
And Alex played Stardew Valley after and had a
Yeah, I
great time.
did. I played Stardew Valley while I was drunk, and I played it for 2 hours without even realizing it.
Yep.
And Bill was like, it's been this long. And I was like, what? So.
But that's why, because it's actually like noon right now when
Mm-hmm.
we're recording, so we're drinking coffee.
Coffee from our favorite place. I got an iced white mocha.
I drink it black.
I have to say, this one's much better than yesterday's. I don't know why.
Because you're just in a better mood today.
I am. I'm in a much better mood. Yesterday I was just in not a great mood.
Yeah. But anyways, moving on now. For our topic for this episode, so this one is a bit interesting. So around 2020, before we started the podcast, I was very heavily trying to like push my blog on Instagram, the Barber of Games. And I was trying to do more like well-designed like content, even though I realized that stuff doesn't really work on Instagram, so I kind of abandoned it after this experiment. But one of the things I tried was I did a top 20 RPG countdown list. And I remember at the time I put so much work in. You can actually see a lot of the if you go and look at it, you can see a lot of the early influence of what would become our branding style for the podcast.
Yeah, with the emojis and stuff.
That and our space background. That was actually the first appearance of our space background that we use. But yeah, so I did this top 20 list, and my whole reasoning for doing a top 20 list is a top 20 list is much easier to think of than a top 10 list.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like RPGs, my opinions kind of shift around at times, and I may or may not change my opinion. So I thought it'd be kind of cool if we go back and just kind of look at this list, and I'd like to critique it for everybody.
Yeah, I'll see if like anything has changed over time.
Yeah,
or...
and also like to get Alex's opinions, because maybe she'll be interested in trying some of these wonderful titles.
Yeah.
But anyways, so starting now from number 20, my top 20 favorite RPG was...
Top 20. Sorry, you said it funny.
My top 20 favorite RPG of all time is Tales of Grace's F for the PlayStation 3, which was released in 2010. So the Tales series, I guess for backstory, the Tales series is a very love it or hate it RPG franchise.
Okay.
Like the games are super they're fun, very RPG-esque, very anime-esque, but they're also very cliche at times. Like they have a lot of recurring tropes that are very common in like anime and RPGs. But the games are really fun to play. Like they're like action-ish RPGs. They're kind of like a cross between an action RPG and a turn-based RPG in terms of design. And you can also play the multiplayer, which is kind of neat. But the series overall, like I've played most of the games in the series, and there's only a few that have come back to me like over time. And Graces is probably my second favorite in the series. That's why I put it at top 20. I know it's not the top most favorite game in the series because a lot of people are attracted to like Symphonia or Vesperia in particular. Graces, though, I kind of liked its coming of age story and its fun characters and kind of like its graphical style, and it had a very unique battle system for the time compared to the rest of the series. So honestly, top 20. This one I think is probably fine where it is. I'd say.
Okay.
It's not too high and it's not too low. It's probably exactly where I'd keep it.
Alright. So you think like this one, like your opinion hasn't really changed?
No, I'd keep Graces exactly where it is.
Okay. Interesting.
Now moving on. Okay, so at the time I made this list, this game was very new to me still because I had only recently acquired it like the year before or 2 years before.
Yep.
So this one is Clodelka, which is the predecessor, like it's basically the prequel to the Shadow Hearts series.
Okay.
And just in case anyone wants to follow along, you can just you might have to go back a bit on my blog, but you can easily find this list. It's back around the 2020s. The easiest way would probably be just search hashtag the Barber Who Games, and you can find it in that hashtag because like that's where I keep all my like designed like stuff I've made.
Yep.
But anyways, so Clodelka.
Clodelka.
Clodelka is a game that I discovered like back in 2018-ish, and I had picked up on a whim. And Clodelka is one of probably the most interesting, underappreciated RPGs on the entire PlayStation, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because it is very much. It is like a combination of survival horror, like Resident Evil, Silent Hill style survival horror,
Yep.
and an turn-based RPG. Because the game has a very like gothic, like horror atmosphere to it. Like, and it controls similar. Like you kind of go around the pre-rendered backgrounds and stuff, and there's like it's got that very like dark atmosphere and like jump scare. Well, not really jump scary, but kind of like you're always on edge when you're walking around. But the battle system is actually really interesting because it's like kind of like strategic, but it's still turn-based, and the music's phenomenal. It was actually the director of the game, I believe, was also and composer was also the composer who did like Secret of Mana on the Super Nintendo. So it's got a very unique style overall. The problem is though, this game is very obscure and also very, very expensive these days.
Oh, okay. How much is it nowadays?
Last I checked, it was like around the 300 area.
Oh, wow.
Like probably in that high 200s to 300, almost 400 sometimes.
So I'm guessing this is kind of one of those games that was like, it wasn't very popular when it first came out, but now it's kind of like a cult classic.
Yeah,
like
kinda.
if you played it, now a lot of people are like, "Ooh, I want it."
The problem is there was a ton of RPGs on the PS1, especially towards the end of its life.
Wow.
So at 19, this was 99 by the way. So this was a late PS1 title.
It's crazy. We were how old?
I was 4. You were 3.
Jesus.
There's a reason I missed this one.
Yeah.
But because it rated M. Yeah, that was never.
Yeah, I don't think Mom would have gotten that for you at 3 years
No.
old.
Now at number 19, I don't know where it'd be, but I'd actually move this one up a bit.
Oh, okay.
Probably, I'd say maybe around like the 16-ish, because I've actually really come to adore this game over time.
Wow.
But moving on now we get... Okay, so here's another interesting one.
Yep.
So 2020... This list was made 2020.
Yep.
Number 18, Fire Emblem Three Houses. For the Switch in 2019. So... Here's my thing. When I made this list, I had just started playing Three Houses.
Oh, okay.
And I really liked Three Houses when I was playing it at the time.
Yep.
But I hadn't finished it yet, so I kind of threw it on the list as an honorable mention.
Yeah.
At 18. Hindsight, I adore this game.
Oh, you really like? I thought you were gonna be like, I
No,
hated
no,
this game.
Three Houses it's honestly my favorite game in the series.
Oh, wow.
At this point, I love the characters, I love the world. It doesn't get too heavy in that relationship stuff that like Awakening and Fates introduced to the series.
Yep.
There is there's romance aspects, but they're not nearly as upfront. It's more about the story. Plus, it has so many different roots, different characters. A lot of like Persona-ish elements too,
Okay.
like the whole like walking around the school and interacting with people. The music's amazing. The gameplay's phenomenal.
Yep.
I love the main character, Byleth. Like everything about this game is like perfect. It's a great tactical RPG. Honestly, it's by far my favorite Fire Emblem of all time, and that might be a controversial take.
Yeah, but it's your take.
So this one would definitely be higher. I want to wait till we get to a later entry on this series because I think I'd swap them around.
Oh, okay.
On this list. But Three Houses was definitely one of my favorites, and I'd still keep it in this list. Now moving on. Okay, this one's probably a bit of a controversial take.
Oh, Final Fantasy.
So Final Fantasy VII.
I feel like just the words Final and Fantasy
Well,
not being in like your top one.
there's only
Would
two.
be.
There's only two Final Fantasies on this list. I will say.
Oh, done.
And the other one's even more
Dun.
controversial for where it is. But so 7, hot take. I'd take this off the list.
Oh,
Entirely.
really?
I threw 7 on here
Dang, to appease the fans.
just kinda at the time. I was a little worried there.
But now you just don't care.
Well, no, I love. Oh no, there's 3 Final Fantasies on this list.
Oh, okay.
I should correct that. We'll get to that though. Yeah, so 7 I threw on the list kind of to appease the fans, but in reality, I love 7, but it's not that good. Like it is. It's a great game overall, but it's aged. It's not perfect like people say.
Yep.
I had a lot of love for it when I played it. I mean, because one of the reasons I got into RPGs was I saw a friend playing 7 back in the day.
Yeah.
And my only problem with 7 is it's weird because it's a great game. I just don't think it's as great as people say. So at 17, I'd probably it'd be below 20 in my opinion.
Wow. Bill's about to get some hate.
I no, because it's not it's not really a controversial take that 7's not a perfect game.
Oh, okay.
It's just the fact that I had it on the list at all. Honestly,
Yeah. You think, like, looking back, that you kind of did it more to
I did it more to
appease,
I was-
appease the fan.
not really appease. I was more like.
I don't want the Final Fantasy fandom.
Pandering, that's what
Yeah.
it was. I was pandering a bit
Oh, okay.
because I thought my list actually would reach people at the time.
Yeah, I mean, you got a good amount of likes on it, so.
Yeah, to a degree. And then moving on, so number 16. I know this list is very PlayStation heavy, I will admit.
Yeah.
16.
But, I mean, you're a little biased because that's what you grew up with, so, you know, it's kind of understandable.
Yeah.
You know, because that's just what you had.
Yeah. So number 16 is The Legend of Dragoon.
Dragoon.
This might also be somewhat of a controversial take because this game has an adoring fan base, but there's also a good amount of people who think it's overrated.
Oh, okay. Are
The-
you one of those people?
No, I like the game. Like
Oh, okay.
you'll notice in the picture, I have a greatest hits copy.
Mm-hmm.
That's my original copy I've had for years.
Oh, wow.
It's one of the only greatest hits RPGs I have left. But I have such an attachment to this game, like just for nostalgia wise, that I don't want to replace my greatest hits copy.
Aw.
But yeah, so Legend of Dragoon is a really solid RPG. Honestly, in hindsight, this one was more nostalgia based. Like,
Yeah.
so what this list really should be. It was on the list for a reason, but nowadays, honestly, I'd probably maybe lower. Honestly, actually, this one I'd probably put at 20,
20.
and I'd bump Grace's up maybe 1.
Oh, okay.
I mean, the game itself is fine. It has a cool story. It's very Final Fantasy-esque graphic-wise. But overall, I won't say it's a masterpiece by any means. Like like it's not what I consider a masterpiece. That's why this lower section of the list is probably where I knew a lot of change was going to go. So honestly, yeah, I'm going to move this one probably to 20-ish.
Yep.
But anyways, now moving on. Now we get to 15 through 11.
Yep.
So,
Oh, I see.
okay, yeah, this is also can date this list a little bit.
Is this one you're gonna move up or move down?
I don't know yet. So, number 15 is Persona 5 Royal.
Oh,
So-
Royal. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have Persona 5 separate on this list?
No,
Oh, okay.
Royal just replaced 5 basically.
okay.
So
Alright, I wasn't sure.
I literally made this list right around the time Persona 5 Royal came out, and I was on such a Persona 5 high at the time
Yeah.
that I probably threw it at 15 to appease, or just because of that.
Yep.
Now, here's the thing, though, about Persona 5 Royal. I really do like the game. Like, I think the game is phenomenal. Like, Persona 5 is a great game. Now that we've kind of, like, a couple of years have gone by, I'm not sure if I'd keep it at 15. I might drop it down a bit, maybe to around the 17, 16 area.
Oh, okay.
The thing about Persona 5 is, from a technological standpoint, like, it's much superior than its predecessors in terms of gameplay and design. Story-wise, I love the story, I love the characters, but the more you look at the story, the more it kind of falls apart,
Oh, okay.
in my opinion. It's like, granted, that I have a lot of bias that we'll find out later why I think this way. I think the thing is, the hype train for Persona 5 was so strong
Yeah.
that, like, I was just obsessed with it when it came out, because I mean, it does have one of the greatest video game soundtracks of all time, like
Oh,
Persona
yeah.
5 in general.
Persona music in general always has amazing music.
But I adored 5 at the time, and I mean, I still do like the characters. Honestly, my problem with 5 is why I lowered is I haven't really gone back to it.
Yeah. Unlike another game where you go back every year
Yeah.
at least once.
And honestly, I really should. I just don't have the time right now, and I'm not gonna have the time for a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Persona 5, I'd probably lower this one a bit.
Yeah.
I'd probably put it definitely behind. I'd probably put this at. So if Dragoon's now at 20, and Grace is at 19, I'd probably put Persona 5 at around 18-ish.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, and probably. I'll figure this out later at the end, but
Oh, okay.
Persona 5,
Are
yeah,
you gonna do like an updated
maybe
post?
I'll take a look.
That would be fun to do. Be like,
Maybe a Twitter
maybe
post or
around
something.
maybe around the podcast, you do like an update when the podcast comes out. Do an update.
Maybe, I'll
that'd be
see.
Cool.
So now moving on. Okay, so this one is another classic. Number 14 is Skies of Arcadia,
Ooh, Dreamcast.
other known as the definitive Dreamcast RPG. Depending on how much of a Grandia fan you are, but
Yep.
So Skies of Arcadia is one of those like amazing just RPGs that's so unique because it's literally Sky Pirates. Honestly, you'd probably kind of like. You'd probably like Skies of Arcadia. And one of these days, like when we have more on that later, but at some point I'll get you into like.
Future.
I'll give you a shot at trying it because it is a really interesting. It's like cool because it's like Sky Pirates and it's got like a fun turn-based
Are you just
storyline.
assuming that I like all things pirates?
Well, you
because
kind
I
of-
like One Piece.
You kind of do.
No, I don't. Not
You-
everything pirate.
You like anime and you like pirates.
I like One Piece, which is an anime about pirates, but it's not like I want to open up a pirate bar or something in the middle of a populated city, a corporate city.
Yeah. That's a reference right there.
Yeah, we love Bar Rescue.
But Skies of Arcadia. Well, it's another unfortunate game that's just super. Unfortunately, with a lot of these are super expensive games nowadays.
Yeah, also being on the Dreamcast.
Well, to be
A
fair,
console that not many people have.
this game later got a GameCube re-release, which is
okay.
equally as expensive.
Well, when it's that good, it's that expensive. But also, sometimes when they're that garbage, they're that expensive too.
True. Skies of Arcadia, I'd say, is probably pretty good though. I'd keep it around the top 15 to like 11 range. I'd have
So
to
you're comfortable in the spot it's currently in, or
Yeah.
at least the spot range it's currently
around.
in?
It's good currently around where it is. I'd have to put together an update at some point.
I think you should. I think that would be interesting to see.
Okay, now here's the next one is an interesting one because this is another game that probably most people have not.
Sega Saturn. Wow.
So number 13 is Albert Odyssey: Legend of Eldin, or Eldine.
Albert.
Eldine, whatever. So the Saturn was fascinating because in America anyways, it didn't get a lot of great like turn-based RPGs. Most of the ones it did get were they were very early in the system's life. So like yeah, 90 well, actually 96 was pretty middle of its life to be honest, but
I was born.
yeah. Yeah, it's so Albert Odyssey is an interesting one because it's like one of the only like traditional RPGs that actually came out in America.
Yep.
It was brought over by Working Designs, although the game is a Sunsoft game. It's a fun turn-based RPG. It's very old school. Like it's not like, other than like the really pretty Saturn era graphics, like the game itself isn't anything to like groundbreaking to write home about. But just as like a solid RPG for what it is, like heavily anime inspired, like fun story, good combat. It's fun for what it is. It's very solid. Unfortunately, it's also very expensive these days because Saturn games in general are just expensive.
So does that mean you're thinking about taking it off this list?
No, it would stay on the
or...
list.
Oh, okay.
Honestly, it's probably good where it is. Maybe I'd put it below Skies of Arcadia. Because I have kind of a Saturn bias, and I think my Saturn bias is why it's higher than...
Why it's higher?
Honestly, I'd probably put it around 15-ish now that I think
15.
about it.
Okay.
But moving on now. Okay, so now here's another classic. Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story for the Nintendo DS. 2009.
Wow.
Over 10 years ago.
That's crazy. I can't believe how old it is.
Especially considering the remake only came out like a year ago or so.
The horrible failed remake.
It's not a bad game. It's just
No, but the horribly
so
marketed
unnecessary.
failed.
So the Mario and Luigi. So this is probably the only. I believe. Yeah, I want to say this is the only Mario and Luigi Mario RPG in general on this list. So there's probably no Paper Mario or Mario RPG itself. So I was torn between Bowser's Inside Story and Superstar Saga, the first game in the series, because they are both amazing turn-based RPGs. I gave the nod to Bowser's Inside Story just because I have a lot more nostalgia for that game because I missed Superstar Saga initially when it came out. I played it after the fact. Bowser's Inside Story was like I got it day one and I played the ever like loving hell out of it.
Yeah.
Like that was one of my I never put it down.
No, I remember always watching you play it. Like
yeah.
I'd creep over your shoulder and be like, "What you play?"
Well, it's such a solid game, great music. The Mario and Luigi combat alone is amazing. Like the memorization, like boss battle, the 2 character controls.
Yeah.
The whole fact that you can theoretically like never take a hit.
Yeah.
Depending on how good you are at the game.
Yeah.
It's just one of those like solid designs and like honestly, I'd probably bump this one up maybe like 1 or 2 places. I'd have to look at what's coming up ahead because honestly, I adore this game probably more than I really should. But yeah, definitely worth picking up. I will recommend the DS version over the 3DS version just because the 3DS version doesn't add anything and it really plays worse, ironically.
Huh. That's funny.
Even if it has slightly prettier graphics.
Wow.
And finally, moving on to the final part of the top 11, I guess, well, for 20 through 11.
Yep.
Final Fantasy VI. So I this is the one I forgot about.
Yes.
I love Final Fantasy VI. Like, 94. Wow.
Yeah. I have to ask, I'm looking at that price tag on the box that you have. Is that the current going price for this game?
So, the Japanese version, sure.
Oh, so you have the Japanese version.
So in the picture and the thing, I'm holding the Japanese cart. Well, the cartridge alone is the American one. That's why it says Final Fantasy 3 on it.
Yep.
That's actually a Japanese import I got at Retro World.
Oh.
Because I love Final Fantasy 6 has a beautiful artwork. So I have a Japanese copy of 6.
Yep.
And for $35, yeah, I'd say a complete copy of 6. That's what it goes for.
Oh,
the
okay.
American cartridge is a lot more up there.
Oh, okay.
I'd have to double check where it's at, but
Yep.
it's definitely more on the expensive side.
Definitely.
So 6 was a very late Super Nintendo RPG. It's probably one of the... So here's the thing about the Super Nintendo. There was so many amazing RPGs on the Super Nintendo, especially very late towards the end of its lifespan. And 6 was one of the final like RPGs to come out on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best. Like it straight up just pushed that system to the max.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of ways, like in terms of its like soundtrack, its character sprites that look phenomenal. It has a very unique like storyline where there is really no there's no real main character in the game. Like, the game has a lot of characters, and most of them are really well fleshed out. There's a few exceptions that aren't, but there's a lot of characters in general.
Yeah.
So, but it's cool because there's really, well, retroactively, the character Terra has become kind of the centerpiece character of the game. Like, when it comes to like outside works, when you actually play the game, there really isn't a central like character that like dominates the plot.
Yeah.
Which is a very unique for the time, and it's actually got one of the best villains in like RPG history because he actually succeeds in his plan and destroys the world.
Oh damn!
Like, and then there's a time skip, and you're in like the world, like the destroyed planet after that, which is a really cool twist.
Yeah.
And the great soundtrack.
Because I'm sure when you were playing that and you were like, "What the heck?" Like I just lost.
Well,
Yeah.
I played it many years after it came out because '94 we weren't alive yet.
Oh yeah, true.
But-
oh yeah, shit.
So it wasn't as shocking as it probably was back then.
Yep.
But the battle system's great too, even though it's broken as shit. And you can rip it, you can break it in half over your knee if you know what you're doing.
And this was like the last one on the Nintendo
Yes.
consoles before it switched.
This
to
was the
PlayStation.
last one before 7. That's why it was technically released as 3 originally because we only got 1.
Yep.
Then they skipped 2 and when 1 came out over here, 2 and 3 were already out in Japan, so they weren't going to bother to waste time localizing 2 and 3. So when 4 came out over here, they just named it 2.
Yeah.
And then 5 was originally supposed to come out as 3, but 5 was considered too hard for Americans at the time.
Yeah.
So they canceled 5 and then just went to 6 and
That's
made 6
so
3.
funny. That's so weird.
But then the funny part is when 7 came out, they decided this is getting too confusing. Just call it 7.
7.
So for a while, it went 1, 2, 3, 7
Yeah.
before they finally started releasing all the other games. Like, because eventually we did get one. We got 2 within the Origins collection for PlayStation, which was a remake of 1 and 2.
Yeah.
We got 5 in the Final Fantasy Anthology collection, which contained 5 and 6.
Hiccup.
Plus, there was the GBA releases. We
Yeah.
didn't get 3 though till like 2006, and with the remake, and we didn't get an official version of Classic 3 until the Pixel remasters only a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah, but before we move on to the top 10 countdown, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And we're back.
We're back. Abuse.
Oh, shit.
I was attacked.
No one cares. Okay, so continuing on, I didn't mention it. 6, I'd probably keep around where it is, around 11.
Yeah.
Just because I can already tell the where we're getting with the top 10. So moving on now, number 10, we get the sole Pokemon title in this entire list.
Oh, wow.
Pokemon Emerald.
Ooh.
Just to get it off the bat, I'd probably lower this one a bit.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, not because I don't like it, just because I feel like there's other RPGs that... I felt like I just had to put a Pokemon up high for some reason. And Pokemon Emerald, by far, is my favorite Pokemon game of all time. It's also, like, the first one I really played
Yep.
anything, like, significantly far into. It's
Yep.
amazing. That was 2004, too.
Yeah.
Crazy how it's almost 20 years ago.
Crazy.
We're getting,
Oh my god.
we're getting
yeah.
close to that. But,
She's so old.
I love the Hoenn region. I'm a strong Gen 3 like apologist, I guess
Yeah.
you could say. I do adore Pokemon Emerald, I'd say. Is it the best way to play Gen 3 now? I'm not sure because the remakes are really good as well. But I just prefer that sprite style overall.
Yeah.
And I love Hoenn. I love exploring it. I love the two-sided team
Yep.
dynamic. I like the surfing. I don't care what anyone says. I like the way the region's laid out. I like how you can go underwater at times. So at 10, I'd probably lower it around the 15 area
Okay.
because there's probably something I'd like to move up.
Yeah.
I'd have to figure it out honestly, but yeah, Pokemon Emerald's definitely deserving to be on the list.
Yeah. But just not in the top
Not as
10.
high. It's probably not a top 10er.
Would you consider putting a different Pokemon game? Or
No, this is really the only one I'd put on the list.
Okay. Arceus, not feeling? No.
I haven't played enough of it yet.
Oh, okay.
But
is that considered an RPG?
yeah, it's still an RPG.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure.
Okay, so now moving on. Now we have Chrono Trigger at number 9.
Does this have an anime as well?
There's anime cutscenes in the PlayStation and DS
I'm sure
version.
there was an anime for this.
I'd have to look. I don't think there is. It uses Akira Toriyama's art, so that might be why you're confused.
Oh, maybe.
It's very Dragon Quest-esque as well.
Oh, okay.
So this right here was a very late Super Nintendo game. Chrono Trigger. So yeah, Chrono Trigger is definitely, in my opinion, better than 6.
Oh, there is an OVA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, Chrono Trigger is like one of the latest RPGs to release for the Super Nintendo, because that was 95, the year I was born.
Wow.
I'm about as old as Chrono Trigger.
I wasn't in existence. Dun, dun.
So Chrono Trigger is a fun game. It's got a cool time travel-esque plot. It actually has, interestingly enough, the art was done by Akira Toriyama, obviously of Dragon Ball and Dragon Quest fame.
Yep.
They also had Dragon Quest, the main Dragon Quest writer, Yuji Horii, contributed to the story somewhat. The composer, I forget his name off the top of my head right now, but the music in Chrono Trigger is phenomenal. The only thing that sucks about Chrono Trigger is it is so freaking expensive these days.
I was gonna say, I'm assuming that the price sticker is not accurate to the current price of it.
No, I got my copy of Chrono Trigger. I got back in 2012.
Oh, okay.
Right before I graduated, when I was working co-op, so I had some disposable income.
Yeah. So you had $100.
Yeah,
That's
that was
$100.
at the time I got Chrono Trigger. That was the most expensive game I had ever purchased.
Wow. So what's the current value? You'd say?
It fluctuates. I've seen it going for like around 200 to like 300 just for the cart. The box, Jesus, I don't even.
500, 600.
I couldn't tell you.
1,000?
It's up there.
Wow.
Yeah. So Chrono Trigger, I love this game. It's definitely worthy of the top 10. That's for sure. Maybe I'd put it a little higher. I have to see what comes next. My thing with Chrono Trigger is it's one of those games though that you really have to be in the mood for.
Yeah.
Because I love the game, but I can't.
So
Sometimes
you can't like pick it up if you are not ready to play it.
sometimes the Super Nintendo RPGs are just a lot harder to pick up.
It's not
Sometimes.
like Stardew Valley where you can just play it anytime, anywhere, any day.
Well, there's a lot to Chrono Trigger's story.
No, yeah. I'm just goofing.
But anyways, now moving to number 8. Okay, so here's the other Fire Emblem. So Fire Emblem Awakening.
Yep.
So the reason why Awakening is so high, so just to say it now, I'd swap Awakening and Three Houses.
Oh, okay.
So Awakening is so high because at the time I made this list, I had not gotten very far into Three Houses yet. I got far enough to know I liked the game a lot. Now, Fire Emblem Awakening is the game that got me into Fire Emblem as a whole. Like, I really, really liked Fire Emblem at the time of its release. Because it was... I put over, like, 200 hours into Fire Emblem on my 3DS.
Wow.
I wanted to unlock every, like, story, like, interaction, all the character the character supports. Because the game has a lot of different options you can do because it has a relationship value system.
Yeah.
And I just liked the combat. It was really smooth, fun to play. It basically saved the franchise and was like one of the key games of the 3DS at the time.
Yeah.
2012, damn, this game's over 10 years old now.
Oh my goodness.
That's nuts.
That's crazy. Well, it's crazy to me that like in my mind it feels like the 3DS hasn't been out for that wasn't out for that long, and also like the Switch, but then I look back and I'm like the Switch has been out for a while.
Yeah,
now.
Switch came out 2017.
I know.
It's getting up. It's on its 5th year, I think.
Yeah, it's just crazy to me to think like how old that was. Crazy.
But yeah, so Fire Emblem Awakening, I love this game, but I'd swap it with Three Houses because I just Three Houses hit so right.
Yeah.
Like in that just like sweet spot in my taste. But moving on now. Okay, so number 7, Dragon Quest IV.
Yep.
I specifically listed the the DS version because the original NES version is a bit dated.
Yeah.
So the DS version came out in 2007, and this was like the second version of this game we got, because we did actually get the original NES version.
Yep.
We never got the awesome PlayStation port, unfortunately.
Yep.
Even though it was intended to come out over here. Dragon Quest IV, though, so Dragon Quest games are really fun. Like, they're classic turn-based RPGs.
Yeah.
The problem I have with the series, though, is I feel like they all kind of blend together at points
Oh, okay.
to me, because they all do have the same art style,
Yeah.
the same basic design. Like, they haven't gone super...
Character tropes are pretty similar.
A bit. They have the same writing style, because the series has had the same writer, artist, and composer its entire run.
Oh, okay.
Like, which is impressive in
Yeah.
hindsight. So I like all the games in the series, but 4 is the one that really stuck with me, because I love the chapters of the Chosen, like, storyline,
Oh, okay.
where the game's split into these different chapters where you play as different characters, and you get their full kind of like backstory like built up, and
Yeah.
like you get really attached to them as you play as them, and then they all meet together in like by like the 4th or 5th or 6th chapter, and then you,
Yeah.
you have this big party, and then the whole story kind of ties together. And it has just a cool, like, the cast is really cool, the battle system isn't too complicated. It doesn't have a job system, which is, sometimes you enjoy a job system, other times you don't so much. I personally adore this game, though, for its simplicity and just like its simplicity yet fun, like, overall, like, structure.
Yeah.
I will admit, though, playing the games, I do enjoy, like, Dragon Quest 8 a good amount. I like Dragon Quest 11 also a good amount, but I still would probably put 4 as my favorite in the series. 7, I think it's good where it is.
Okay.
I'd keep it at 7.
Nice.
Honestly, if I was going to recommend a Dragon Quest to anyone, I always say 4.
Okay.
Even if, unfortunately, the only way to play 4 is on the DS, and it's not the easiest game to... It's not super expensive, but it's definitely not the easiest game to come by.
Oh, okay.
Now, moving on to number 6. Okay, so
Ooh,
this
Genesis.
is... Yeah, this game right here. Phantasy Star 4. This is by far the best RPG on the Genesis.
Oh, wow.
It's also, getting a boxed copy like this is very expensive, but thankfully, it was included on that Sega Genesis... the Sega Genesis thing on Switch.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's one of the games on there, which is great. So Phantasy Star... So the Genesis was always behind the Super Nintendo in a lot of ways.
Yep.
Particularly, like, RPGs. Like, because the Super Nintendo had... I mean, just to name a few. Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy IV,
Yeah.
Chrono Trigger, Earthbound, Mario RPG,
Yeah.
Lufia 1 and 2, Breath of Fire 1 and 2... The list goes on. Soul Blazer,
Yep.
Illusion of Gaia, Terra Enigma, I think it's called. A ton of RPGs.
Yeah.
Dragon Quest 4, 5, Dragon Quest 5, 6, a whole bunch of Shin Megami Tensei. The list goes on.
Yes. On and on and on.
The Genesis, on the other hand, so the problem is Nintendo had so many studios helping them out at the time, like Squaresoft, Capcom, all these different companies. Hiccups are back, by the way.
I'm sorry.
Sega, on the other hand, had to make most of their games in-house, which is honestly how the Genesis was like helped a lot of the times. They had so many great in-house studios. And the Phantasy Star series was probably their answer to Final Fantasy.
Yep.
And Phantasy Star 4 is like up there with like some of the best RPGs from the era at the time. And I love its story because it ties together the whole original Phantasy Star plotline before we got to the online games. And it has phenomenal graphics, a really great soundtrack using the Genesis sound card, especially. It also was really cool because it had like manga style like cutscenes and like backdrops that would pop up, and it was really like impressive for the time. And there was a lot of shocking story elements that like games like Final Fantasy VII get praised for that aren't actually that original.
Yep.
In hindsight. The only thing about Phantasy Star 4 is probably just the fact that it's not the most accessible game out there, and it is an older RPG.
Yeah.
I mean, it came out in 93 technically, but the game itself didn't come out in America till like 95, I want to say. Because it was a very late Genesis RPG. But anyways, now moving on, we get to the final home stretch. Now this is probably, I will say going forward, I'll keep Phantasy Star 4 at 6, because I do, as much as I like the game, I can say for a fact the top 5 aren't going to change.
Oh, okay.
So moving on now, we get to number 5, Suikoden 2. Now, Suikoden 2, this is a very expensive game as well.
How much did you pay for it?
So this was my flea market story where I kind of scared the guy selling it, and he gave it to me for like really underpriced. Because he was like, I was walking past the booth and I overheard him say, "I got a copy of Suikoden 2 in," and I literally like ran up and was like, "How much?" And he like didn't know what to do, so he just offered. Like, he was like 60, and I was like, "Sold," and I made off with it.
Wow, how much do you think it would be worth right now?
It's in that $200 range from what I've seen.
So you got it for a good deal.
Yeah, I did at the time.
All right,
very
kids,
good deal.
Remember, at the flea market, if you want a good deal,
be aggressive.
Scare the crap out of the flea market person, and they'll go. No, don't actually do that. Well, Bill didn't do it on purpose. But
no, I heard it and I was like,
so
Suikoden 2, how much? But yeah, so Suikoden 2, this was a later PlayStation game, like 98. And it kind of got overshadowed initially because it still used like sprite graphics at a time when everyone was using like the 3D models and pre-renders. Mm-hmm. But the story itself and the gameplay is so solid and like deep. Like the story's got this really big like socio-political like storyline that's like really, it's like very, very deep for like an RPG, which probably a lot of kids were attracted to at the time. Mm-hmm. And honestly, there's just so much to do in this game. It's so hard to explain it without like actually like playing it. Mm-hmm. Like there's a lot of like character interactions, and like you can very much miss certain things if you don't play the game exactly the right way.
Yeah.
I love this game. It's so hard because it's the problem with this top 5 is a lot of these games are not easy to come by.
Oh yeah. Or they are expensive.
I know some people would say number 5 is a bit low. Mm-hmm. And I agree that it's arguably this game is better than at least one of the games in my top 5. Mm-hmm. I can't help but admit, like, 5 is as high as I can get it on the list right now. Now, moving on. Okay, this is the controversial one.
Dun, dun, dun.
So, at number 4, I have Final Fantasy VIII.
Yep.
Put your pitchforks down.
All right, guys. Put the torches away. Pitchforks down. Don't hurt this boy, okay? He has his own opinions. Let him have them.
By all regards, Final Fantasy VIII probably wouldn't belong on the list, period.
Oh, really?
Well, okay, so Final Fantasy VIII...
You lied. You said your top 5 wouldn't change.
It won't change, because here's my reasoning. Final Fantasy VIII was my first RPG I ever played. Oh, all because I was a dumb kid who mixed up 7 and 8 Roman numerals
Yep.
as a child and got 8 instead. And you know what? In hindsight, yeah, 8 is an incredibly flawed game with a very confusing story for the time and gameplay that takes a lot of time to get into and a very, very slow start. Mm-hmm. But 8 does have by far the best Final Fantasy soundtrack ever made. I'm not even sure if that's a hot take anymore. I think it's kind of unanimously... A lot of people have just kind of accepted that 8 has by far one of the best soundtracks in Final Fantasy history. Yep. The graphics are phenomenal for PlayStation standards. Yeah, the main character is a bit hard to relate to, and he's not the most likable character out there, but I like the characters. I do enjoy the plot twist in the story that happens later on. The junction system is stupid, but kind of compelling once you figure it out. And I like the more modern... take. Yeah, it's probably the least fantasy of the Final Fantasy series when you really look at it. Mm-hmm. But there's just something about 8 that attracts me to it. I have a very hard time disliking this game, I guess you could say. So that's why 8 is at 4 just because honestly people will probably kill me for putting it above
putting it higher than 7.
Well, not 7.
Okay.
Than Suikoden.
Yeah.
But
it has a special place in your heart.
Yeah, it's pure. This position is purely nostalgia based.
Yeah, if you didn't play this game, you might not have found a lot of other RPGs.
Yeah, I mean this game did take me years to beat, but. But anyways, now moving on. So number 3, Lunar 2 Eternal Blue Complete, for the PlayStation 1.
The PlayStation.
So honestly, the Sega CD version is probably the better version of the game, but I have a lot of nostalgia for the PS1 version, mostly just because of how I acquired it. Because you remember we found it at that random retro game store that appeared at the mall in our hometown,
Yep.
and I walked in and like it was mostly kind of just random junk. There was a couple rares here and there, but they had Lunar 2 just chilling on the shelf in the back, and I was like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Can I look at that?" And he pulls it off the shelf, and it's in this giant box, and I was like, "The heck is this?"
Yeah.
And at the time, it was only going for like 120.
Yeah.
So I said, "Okay, I'll give
I'm
it a shot.
sold."
I'll give it a shot." And I bought it and I played it and I just fell in love with it. I love the story. I love the characters.
Yeah.
I'm kind of bummed that it only got one remake and it's kind of been like overshadowed by its predecessor in a lot of ways. But I love the main characters. I love like Lucia and Hero. I love the main hero's name is Hero in the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I like the combat system. It's got a really cool turn-based system. The sprites are fun. The soundtrack's great. A lot of voice acting, a lot of cuts like anime cutscenes and stuff. The big box, like working designs, translation, I love.
Yep.
There's just so many things I adore about this. You remember when I saw the Lucia cosplayer at Anime
Yeah.
Boston, and I thought it was like the greatest thing ever.
Yep.
Because I was like, oh my god, someone actually like knows what Lunar 2 is. I absolutely adore Lunar 2.
Yeah.
And it's at 3 just because the 2 games ahead of it I just love that much more. Now moving on, once again, now we get to number 2, Tales of the Abyss. So this was the other Tales entry I have on the series, on this list. And this is by far my favorite Tales game of all time.
Oh, nice.
So my story with Tales of the Abyss is everybody. I knew a bunch of friends who had GameCubes, and a couple of them had Tales of Symphonia, which was the one on the GameCube. And I saw them playing it, and I thought it looked really cool for the time, like the
Yeah.
whole multiplayer style, like combat, just the anime-esque graphics, the fun music, just the cool like world exploring and stuff. The skits I liked in particular, the whole like the whole socialization aspect, like
Yep.
to get more character building. So, as a PS2 kid, I kind of had to like look and see what there was, and I actually at the GameStop I noticed that there was 2 Tales games on the PS2
Oh, cool.
released in America, anyways. There was Tales of Legendia and Tales of the Abyss.
Yep.
I picked Abyss because something about Legendia's cover kind of was off-putting to me. And in hindsight, I made the right choice because Legendia is like the black sheep of the series
Yep.
in a lot of ways. It's not a bad game, but it's unique, I will say. If we ever do like a Tales retrospective episode, I'll get into that further.
Okay.
But Tales of the Abyss.
Tales of the Abyss.
So this game by far has my favorite Tales story of all time. Like I love the main character Luke is kind of a piece of work in the first part of the game. He's a very difficult. He's like Squall but worse because he has a voice.
Yep. Oh,
But-
no.
I love the side characters because the side characters are like super like complex as well, and like Luke's story is really interesting the farther you get into the game, where you kind of learn. I won't spoil anything because it is actually an interesting plot twist, but you learn a lot of why Luke's the way he is for a lot of specific reasons, and the game has. So a lot of RPGs also have like romance subplots, and the one in
Yeah.
Tales of the Abyss is very well done.
Okay.
Ironically, all of my my top 5 actually have pretty strong romance subplots when you really think about it. But I love Tales of the Abysses because it's very subtle and it's very gradual and it's not in your face the entire game. And it's very competent. The ending is the ending leaves a lot of it up in the air, and it even had an anime adaptation, even though the anime was never dubbed.
Oh. Interesting.
Definitely my favorite Tales game by far. It also got a 3DS release,
Oh.
which is how I played it the second time around.
Huh. Do you prefer I'm assuming you prefer the PlayStation
The
over
PS2
3DS.
version looks better because of the higher resolution on the screen
Yep.
and the less like screen crunch, but the 3DS version runs a little better because the 3DS is more
Oh,
powerful
okay.
than the PS2.
So what would you recommend then?
They're both fine.
Oh, okay.
For nostalgia's sake, I like a bigger screen, so I
Yeah.
prefer the PS2, but the 3DS version's fine.
Oh, okay. 3.
I'm not sure which one would be cheaper, honestly, at this point. All right, and then, okay, this one isn't a surprise to anybody. Number 1 is Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I can go on and on about how much I love Persona 4 Golden.
Yeah.
It's just one.
We've done a whole podcast on it.
We've done 2 podcasts talking about Persona. We did
Yeah.
one that was dedicated just to Persona.
Yeah.
I fucking adore this game.
Yeah.
It's got. I love the murder mystery plot. I love the fact that it's a murder mystery with like the happiest like overall like tone in general. I love every single character. I love the main character. All the party members. Teddy's great.
Teddy.
I love the. I won't spoil it, but I love the twist.
Oh yeah.
Even though we've spoiled it already on our other podcast.
But don't listen to that one. Listen to this. Well, listen to this one.
Play the
game,
and then
listen to it.
No, but I adore everything about Persona 4 Golden.
Yep.
Like Golden is just it was literally the reason to own a Vita for the longest time.
Oh yeah.
And heck, I mean, now that it's on PC, even more people can enjoy it. And hell, it's even. I mean, I doubt it. It hasn't been announced yet, but I've heard rumors about a Switch port that I'd really like.
I think that would be awesome.
That would be great. I'd buy it. I'd buy it for a 4th time.
Yeah.
I've bought this game many times
Yep.
over the years. But 2012, this game is already 10 years old, and I mean,
God.
hell, the PlayStation original is, God, like at least 15 years old. I think it was
Wow.
like 2008 when that came
Crazy.
out. Such a good RPG though, like
Yeah.
definitive #1. So
And honestly, I feel like as someone who had never, whose only really RPG experience was like Pokemon, I was able to pick it up pretty quickly when I started playing it.
oh,
on
it's
the
such an
Vita.
easy. I mean, it's a hard game, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
very easy to pick up and figure out.
It was very simple to pick up and figure out. And
Plus,
there's
you
so
love
many-
those social sim games, so you really adored the socialization aspect of Persona 4.
My only negative is that you can't pick Yosuke as your love interest. That's my only negative.
I'm pretty sure that might have been dummied out. I'm not sure though, but I love Persona 4. I
Yeah.
can't say it enough.
Me too.
So, I guess now to wrap this up, like around ranking wise, now I definitely 5 through 1 are all the same.
Okay.
And then going back, 6 is I'd keep 6 the same.
Yep.
Dragon Quest 4 I'd keep there. Fire Emblem Awakening switch with 3 houses. I'd keep 3 houses at 8.
Yep.
Chrono Trigger I'd keep at 9.
Mm-hmm.
I'd push Pokemon Emerald back a little, and I believe I'd move 6 up to 10. I'd say I'd move 6 up to 10. Bowser's Inside Story I'd move up to 11.
Yep.
I'd probably put Skies of Arcadia at 12.
Yep.
And then Pokemon Emerald I'd probably put at 13 and
Okay.
move Albert Odyssey to 14.
Okay.
And I'd probably leave Persona 5 where it is at 15.
All right.
Now going to back to the 15s. So like I said, I'd probably move Legendary Dragoon to 20.
Yep.
I'd push Graces up to 19. 18 I'd put Fire Emblem Awakening at.
Yep.
So 17 is the interesting one. I'd leave blank for a minute. And I'd put Klodelka at 16.
Okay.
Now, because I took 7 off the list. The question now is, what would I put in its place?
Hmm.
And this is where it gets interesting, because I've played a lot of RPGs since,
Yeah.
and it's very difficult to say my opinion because I've played a lot of modern RPGs lately as well. And I kind of I want to so maybe instead I'd move everything up and I'd leave 20 open.
Yeah. I think that's smart.
What would I put at 20? That's the real question here. Because I've played a ton of RPGs on the PlayStation. I've played a ton of PS2 RPGs, PS3 RPGs even.
Yeah.
Hell, even PS4.
Yeah.
But this leaves kind of the conundrum. What to put,
What to put here?
what to put here? And honestly, I'd like to say...
Should I drum roll?
No, because you're putting way too much pressure on me because I have literally no idea. Because Bravely Default series is up there. Is one I'd consider. Octopath Traveler, I really enjoyed. Yeah, it's hard to say. It really is hard to say. Oh, I mean, the Legend of Heroes series, the Ys series I love.
Yes.
There's a lot I'd have to contemplate. So I'm gonna have to leave 20 open, and maybe I'll have to do a reevaluated list
Yeah.
sometime in the future.
I think you should. I think it would be interesting to look at.
I mean, not a lot of the list changed, and most of the things just kind of shifted around a bit. I mean, hell, I think the top 9 are basically the same
Yeah.
for the most part.
Minus like a couple minor things.
Well, no, I swear, yeah. Other than like Fire Emblem Awakening, so the top 7 are the same. That is a fact. But yeah, pretty cool to look back at this one.
Yeah.
Definitely kind of something a little thought provoking, I'd say.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, I'm kind of actually curious. Maybe in the future we could do another like countdown list, or like have you do your favorites of a something list,
Yeah, I think that would be fun.
and we'll come and talk about it again. But
Yeah.
anyways, once again, guys, thanks for joining us on the Gaming and Collecting Podcast. The Gaming and Collecting Podcast can be found on all your major podcasting platforms, particularly Apple Podcast and Spotify. And we are made using Anchor Podcasts. And you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram, as well as Good Pods.
Yep.
And the episodes eventually do come out on YouTube. It all depends on however long it takes me to edit the video files.
Yeah.
But anyways, guys, once again, thanks for joining us on the Gaming Collecting Podcast, and we will see you all next time.